Today on Mental Health Matters with Marty, COVID schooling. Welcome, everybody. Listen, we are so excited to have this inaugural show on COVID schooling. I am Martina Sellers. I am your mental hygienist, and we are so glad that you are joining us for this series, y'all. In talking to everyone, we just wanted to make sure that we have information to give to you. So let me share with this. This show is strictly intended as an educational tool. Let me say that again, an educational tool. It is not a substitute for medical advice about yourself or anyone else, especially as it pertains to COVID. If you need medical advice or a mental health challenges or definitely mental health advice, please contact your medical advisor. If this is a medical or psychiatric emergency, call 911 or go to your nearest hospital. Now that we got that out the way, listen, we are so excited that you have joined us for this amazing series every Tuesday, coming to you nationwide. Listen, as we share COVID schooling, we want to address your fears. We want to address your anxieties. We want to address everything that goes along with this and give you tools that's going to help you equip so that you make the best decision for you and your family. Now, I am so excited that I am not doing this show all by myself. I am so excited that my boy all the way from the DMV, another licensed professional counselor, Mr. Thomas Davis, is joining us as co-host. What's up, Thomas?
What's up, man? What's up, listening audience? What's going on?
Yes, sir. Okay, this show was really part of a collaboration that we're talking about together. Let's share with our listening audience. This is our inaugural show, man. I'm excited. I'm so excited that you're going to be co-hosting this with me in doing this. So thank you for accepting the invite, man.
Right.
I appreciate you. As we were talking, what were some of the things that, as we're talking about how to equip our families, our teachers, and everything, what were some of the thoughts that we had behind this?
I just feel, Marty, again, just thank you for the opportunity. Again, I'm happy just to be here, just to empower our families and just and just talk. So I guess to say we just started just talking about our schooling, like we all was worried about, are we going back in the building? Are we going back to school? And we started thinking about the implications for parents.
Right.
Because some of our parents are teachers, right?
Yes.
So, and then we also just started talking about our kids, their anxieties, our anxieties. So I said, hey, Marty, let's really empower the world how we can all get through COVID. So this is why we're here this evening.
Yeah, I totally agree. And listen, we want all of you to share. This is some valuable information. We want to bring on medical professionals. We want to bring on school professionals. We want to bring on teachers. We want to bring on concerned parents. We want to bring on students. We want it to be an interactive. So if you have questions, even if we don't have all the answers or what that might be, we're going to check with the professionals. We want you to get everybody you can to jump on board, to get on here. Listen, we want to make sure that we are protecting our kids. Jerron, what's going on, sir? We want to make sure we are protecting our kids, everything else, so that we are making the best informed decision about this. The world is changing. Everything is changing. We want to make sure that you are equipped with this as well. What do you want to share with the people too, Thomas?
I just wanted to share with all of you all. Mm-hmm. We are going to get through this.
Yes.
We are not going to get stuck in the rut. We're not going to be like, oh, how am I going to teach my kid? How am I going to be present? We are here to help you. I promise you. Stick with us all month of August, every Tuesday night, and we will get you to where we all want to be. Thank you, Marty.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually feel that this is going to run, Thomas, really actually longer than August because we're going to be there to help each and every parent along the way, because there's so much uncertainty. And I think a lot of us are because we've never had this happen to us ever before. We thought this pandemic was actually going to be over by what we thought maybe by Easter. And now we're in August and still dealing with this. Numbers keep climbing, you know, and I'm going to share this. I caught COVID myself. Yes, I caught COVID. I was down the entire month of July. And it is, listen, let me tell you, for those who may not know, COVID is real. It is. And it messes with our psychology. It messes with everything, our mental health, our physical health, all those things. I am a part of that group that has been healed. 97 from the current statistics, 97% of us do recover from, let me say that, 97%, 93% of us do recover. That's right, proper. Right. Yes. From this, but it's in the 90 percentile with it. But we have to make sure we are doing everything right in this and protecting our youth as well. Someone said it this way about putting teachers. Why do we always say that teachers are the answer to mental health issues? Teachers are the answer to our financial issues. Teachers are all the answers to all these things for our children. However, we don't finance our schools like they are the answers. Let me say that one more time.
All right.
Yeah. See, if they are the answers, then we need to put our money where our mouth is. We need to protect our children. We need to protect our teachers. We need to pay them the salaries that they deserve in that. That's a whole nother speech, y'all. Yes, yes. Alana, I'm so glad for the recovery too. And those of you, I hadn't shared it because it was, you know, very personal in that as well. And let me tell y'all, this whole thing about COVID, I had no energy. I was tired. I lost my taste, all of those things. And I had to make sure that I got healthy, well with it myself first before sharing this. And I will gladly share my story on my podcast coming out tomorrow. My son and I share the story with that. So please join us on Mental Health Matters with Marty on the podcast with that. But I don't want to.
But Marty, hold on one second.
Yeah, go ahead.
And one thing that I would say, even when you are dealing with COVID, it's very important to have a support system. Somebody that's going to call you, someone that's going to check on you, drop food off at your door. So you have to have those supports in place too.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm so grateful for my support systems that I would just go to my door, the doorbell would ring, and people sent me, you know, I had humidifiers and groceries and all those things because I couldn't do it. And I was taking care of my mother. My mother caught it as well. So she went into a cognitive fog. So I'm now taking care of my mother, taking care of me, taking care of my son. And shout out to Desiree, my daughter's godmother, who came and got my 4-year-old daughter who tested negative and kept her for over 3.5 weeks to make sure she stayed safe. It took a village and it took all of us, you know, with that. So your excellent point with that. So first of all, tell us who your guest is, who you invited to be on the show for tonight.
Well, before I do that, I think we should probably tell our audience, Marty. Okay. We have some dynamic speakers and panelists in the house tonight.
Yes, we do.
We have some great energized.
Yes.
Brothers.
Yes.
Let me say that word again. Brothers. ELACK. Educators.
Yes.
Doctors.
Doctors. Come on.
Who will be sharing with us on this evening about COVID, things that we see in our schools, things that they can share into us. And we also going to talk about ways to cope as well.
That's
so you're getting a dynamic duo and a gold level package.
That's right.
Speaking of for free.
For free.
Speaking of packages.
Yes.
It is a great pleasure and it is a great honor to introduce my guest for this evening. One of our guests.
Yes.
This brother hails all the way from Jeannette, Louisiana.
Oh, Lord.
This young man said to me when he introduced himself, he said, I have been on the forefront of change since the age of 13.
Come on.
I said, all right now.
He's on the battlefield.
That's the leader. That's the leader. He also was a member of Teach for America. He was a recipient for the Best Teacher of the Award for his program. He's also earned his PhD from the Howard University.
From the Howard.
Focus, the Howard University.
The Howard.
In education and leadership. But first of all, let me say this. First of all, this young man is a president of a chapter known as the Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, the Omicron Eta Lambda chapter. So without further ado, I want to introduce the guest, Dr. Jabriah Lewis, A5.
Hey. Dr. Lewis. We're throwing up our sides now, huh? Listen, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, man. Thank you for being on the show with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hey, with that, listen, I'm going to introduce my guest as well.
All right.
My guest is none other than he's got a PhD from down there in the dirty South in Houston with it. He's a pastor. He's an educator. He's always definitely on the forefront for education, and especially in special education, because there's so much about special education. When we say special education, I'm going to let him do all his stuff too. We have to look at both ends of the scale, because the gifted are considered special education, just as those who might be needing further assistance with that.
Right.
He is so knowledgeable on how we can support our children in the midst of this COVID crisis, what we need to ask the district for, especially if you have IEPs and 504 plans. Listen, he is passionate about his work, but he is country, and I love it. But he will cook you some fried catfish, bake a peach cobbler, throw some mean potato salad with it, and then preach you under the bench too, and pray over you and get you saved. Listen, none other than the Reverend Doctor, none other than Sean Stewart. Yes,
hey, what's up?
How you feeling?
I'm well. Greetings and salutations to each and every one of you. Thank you for having me, Marty.
Hey, great to have you as always. I appreciate you always answering my call and doing that, because you know we don't have enough passion. I shouldn't say that. I love passionate people and people who are passionate about their young people, and you have always been passionate about young people. So my first question, really, to both you and Dr. Stewart and Dr. Lewis. You know, I'm just Marty in this piece, but
I'm just Thomas.
Where did your passions for both of you develop for helping to educate our children and educate? Because we don't see a lot of Black men with PhDs in education. Not saying there are a lot out there, don't get me wrong, but when we look at the numbers, we still make up a small percentage in that. And so I never discount anything that you do. What brought up, and I'm gonna start with Dr. Sean, and then I'm gonna talk to Dr. Jabriah after that. What developed this passion, and why in the midst of all this are you still finding passion for it?
I grew up in a small city in Southeast Texas called Orange, Texas, the great metropolis of sweet Orange, Texas, just literally down I-10. We're the first city you cross over coming from Louisiana into Texas. We're the last city on I-10 you cross over going into Louisiana from Texas. And I grew up in a school district that the name of it is West Orange Stark Cove Consolidated Independent School District. And I grew up in a school district that had a lot of white leadership. We very rarely saw African Americans in leadership. First Black principal I saw was Andrew Hayes, and Andrew Hayes reminded me all the time. He says, "You don't get to quit because you represent what other people need to become."
All right.
And I have carried that with me ever since I left Orange. I started the NAACP, the Youth and College Division in Orange, Texas, became a state leader in the NAACP. I went to the finest institution in America, Prairie View A&M University. And the finest university in America. And I appreciate my HBCU training, because the one thing that African American teachers can do is they don't just teach culture, they teach you how to transcend generations, how to take your wisdom and become wisdom wells. And so I wanted to be not a beacon light, but I wanted to be a bridge. I'm a practitioner of education. I'm not just a teacher, I'm a practitioner of this craft. And my ultimate goal is to change lives. And you know, I fathom in the words of John Lewis, we have to be responsible for getting into good trouble. And sometimes good trouble looks like me, even though it sounds aggressive, it sounds arrogant at times. It's pushy. I don't push envelopes. I push the whole house. That way, I can't be there.
Right.
Come on.
All right.
Because the people who make decisions need to look like us, sound like us. If they're going to develop policy, people who write policy and develop procedures and do the statistics and write the law, 9 times out of 10 don't look like us. The people who vote on it look like us. And we think that we're saying something when we vote, when actuality, the power is in the policy. So we need to have people who represent special ed, who when you start saying, I want to change these kids' lives, you actually know the story of the kid. You're talking about suspending because your toolbox didn't train you how to deal with a kid who's just ADHD.
Yes.
The grandmother's not going to give up her SSI to go buy the medicine because she got to keep the lights on.
Right. Right.
You got to know the story. So when you look at me, I think, and not only just to represent the people who have doctors, Marty, but we don't see enough of us in leadership positions where we have the right to make decisions.
That's right. That's good.
The one push I have for everybody, if you really, people who are in education are not called because of the money.
Right.
Yeah, it's not the money. The people who come to education are here because we believe in the practitioner being the tools that change the future. A teacher changes 3,000 kids' lives within their 20 to 30 year span of teaching. And those, who do you think taught the people that are in Congress to read policy? Who taught them how to do the math to cut our budget?
Yes.
Who taught them how to write the rules that says that we don't get to use, or better yet, that it's better for us to go to school than it is for you to go to Congress and vote on policies to keep us open, or better yet, to buy PPE so we can be covered, because you won't go to the convention you say you want to support because it's not safe for you to be in person, but it's okay for me to be in a building with 3,000 kids with a teacher, but that's okay.
Right.
All right.
And the people that are making those decisions don't look like the minorities they impact.
Right.
And it's not even a white or black issue, because I'm friends with Republicans that are black. That's not the issue. The issue is that the people who are saying that the systemic gap should be in existence and should be further perpetuated don't look like the people they impact. However, I will tell you this. We have a panacea of a pandemic, but the power to cure it happens in November.
Yes. That's it.
If you don't do nothing else, goes out. Bishop Allen said it well, I don't give up, but you do. But you better go get in that line and you better stay there till you vote.
All right.
Come on. We have to. Excellent. Dr. Portia Scott said it this way on her comment, says, Dr. Sean, you better teach. So where is CNN so they can have you as on a segment? Come on. That's right.
All right.
This is powerful stuff because they need more of us on those channels and those feeds and everything. Yes. Dr. Jabriah, come on, talk to us. Same question.
Yes. Look. Dr. Sean had me going over here, you know.
He had us in church.
I was back in the choir stand saying amen.
Right.
And probably because we have, very similar stories. Small town in Louisiana, Jeanerette, from a family of educators. And I think I did everything in my power, probably not to be an educator, because my mom is an educator, my sisters, my aunts. And so I was on my way to med school. I wanted to make big money. However, when I was at Louisiana State University, work study wasn't allowing me to actually be able to go out and do the fun things that I wanted to. So I went and got another job. And I actually got a job at the YMCA, actually doing after school programming. And when I tell you that I had to, as a 19-year-old, I wrestled with the idea of, should I continue majoring in microbiology and going to med school, or actually switch to education, because I receive joy every day that I actually walk into that after school program. And I looked at those young people who just reminded me, of myself. And I remember, getting on the phone and calling my mom, and I said, guess what? I'm changing my major. And she said, to what? And I said, secondary education. She said, boy, what's wrong with you? And of course, now, she retracted, because I told her, I I may not be a medical doctor, but I'm gonna actually still be a doctor that actually gives life, to people. And we know that education, I always say, is a matter of life or death. Dr. Sean said it. We the ones that create every other profession that actually exists. And so when I left Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I got in my Forerunner and went up to Washington, D.C. to go to the Mecca, Howard University.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I see Dr. Sean.
UC Berkeley.
And the reason why I, selected, Howard, because Howard University is unapologetic around the education for people who are Black and brown and those who are from marginalized communities. And so, that actually, spoke to who I am, as a person, my core values, and what keeps me, in this work is that when I look at these young people, they are us 20, 30 years ago. They're our children. They are our grandchildren. And so we actually, owe this to society. When we talk about, when we look at us on here, 4 Black men, but when we look at the stats, only 2% of America's public school teachers are Black males. Only 10% of African Americans are principals, and only 4% are superintendents. We have to change that. We have to change this narrative, and we understand that the majority of our young people who are in public education are Black and brown. And so it is incumbent upon us to actually really do what we have to do to empower our families. And we understand that education actually changes the life trajectory, of families. Education breaks the cycle of poverty, generational poverty. And so that's the reason why we are able to sit here. That's the reason why that, we have moved to another socioeconomic, class. That's why we are also sitting on the panel, empowering others who are listening because of education, and because we had parent teachers, we had leaders who were unapologetic about ensuring that we got a quality education. And that's what keeps me in this work.
Excellent.
So thank you so much for definitely sharing, Dr. Lewis. Dr. Sean, you started us with saying something that I don't think that we really heard you. You said teachers are not just teachers. We are practitioners. That means that we are practicing and we are believing and we are pouring out into our students, into our families. If we are principals and leaders, we are pouring out to everyone. And so I just think that I just kind of want us to stay there for like a quick second as we talk about what does it mean to practice in your gift. It's kind of like we are going to walk into our gifts. How do we take that skill set and that love and that compassion as we are also dealing with now COVID, right? So now we have our parents who are overwhelmed, overworked, underpaid, lack of support.
Are you talking about teachers, or are you talking about actual parents?
Teachers and parents. Right. Because so sometimes our teachers are parents, right? So how do we take what we have in us and give back to them?
Good.
I'll start with Dr. Lewis.
Yeah. So for the past 10 years, I actually was a school principal. I served as pre-K 3 to 8th grade school in Washington, D.C. And when I tell you, being a principal probably was my, greatest life work, to date. And the reason why is because, and I would say Dr. Sean actually, probably got a blessing on both, because, he's a pastor and he's also an educator. And I put those together because I often felt, that I actually, was also a leader of a flock. And so I led with love. And I would tell teachers, who were coming to the school, and they would actually, have interviews. I will share with them, I can teach you around curriculum. I can employ you with the best practices, but I cannot teach you how to love this community. That's something that you actually have to walk in with. You actually have to walk in with the spirit of servant leadership.
Right.
And so when we think even about like servant leader, you can't look at yourself as I'm high mighty, I'm the principal, and what I actually say go. You have to connect with the community. You have to be a listener. And now that we actually, you know, in this global pandemic, also a part of being a leader is to think first and foremost about the livelihood of our families. And that's the decision that should be paramount, you know, when we are considering whether to reopen schools, whether to go virtual, how our delivery of services is going to be. And so it's definitely a polarizing experience as a leader, because one, you want to make sure that, you know, families, children, staff, you know, are safe. And simultaneously, you also want to make sure that we are still delivering high quality instruction.
High quality instruction
to our families, because we know that many of our children.
I think we got stuck.
Yeah. Okay.
So I will pick up where he was. We have to bring instruction to the home in a different way.
And will it actually widen
parents to not just skills, but we also have to connect them to tools that actually will bring the instruction home.
Right.
So a good example of that, it used to be a time when we would go to school, you know, when Marty was in school, that the answers were in the back of a textbook, right?
Yes, it was. Thank you, Jesus. Hallelujah.
When he in reality, you know, the audience had the answers in the back of the book.
Yes, they did.
All right.
Things have changed. Now we have Google Classrooms. We don't have answers. We have exemplars. That's what the research has changed the terminology. It's still an answer key. You know, now we're not raising people to just solve an answer. We're now teaching people how to troubleshoot and problem solve. And so we're now there's this new word called rigor, where we're actually changing the way, not how we think, but the way we think and what we think. So then, you know, when Marty was in school, he was taught to solve all the way to the end. On most assessments now, especially when you look at math, we're assessing if you can get to the middle of the problem, find that answer, and move on to the next. Versus now the answer to solve all the way to the end is there, and that answer is an option. But if you're not cognizant on the question, then you will miss the whole answer. And I'm pointing to that because Marty went to school at a certain time. I think all four of us graduated from high school at different times. We matriculated through college at different times. So what we learned as pedagogy, as research, and the way that we deliver instruction, all of that has changed from college to certification to actual application now, right? And so now we have people who are third generation grandparents raising their grandchildren.
That's right.
Who need skills. They need technology. We have to bring it home.
That's
one of the things that I love in the institution that I work at, I'm leading a work now where we're actually recording the instruction. So then put it up in the Google Classroom. So then the parents who are the hotspot, because there is no internet at home, can go home, go into the Google Classroom, see the actual instruction, have access to the exemplar, pull it down. Good. They can help their child with the work, because that's the connection. We're not just teaching children anymore. We are impacting families.
That's
good.
There
you go. Families.
If we have the bilingual character in place that are Spanish speakers or we have African speakers who speak Lua, which is a whole nother conversation. Then you now have to not just have someone who speaks English, but you now have to go find someone who actually speaks the language that the kids speak. So then we can connect the two as one. So then when you talk about education, we're not just talking about Marty impacting the student. We're now impacting homes. We now have parents having to sit down and rethink, recalibrate what they know about learning to exist. And I just want to put this in place also. When we start talking about special ed and this online program, and we start talking about 504, parents, remember, the instruction can still be high quality. You just have to go get it. Teachers will offer the process online. Check with your teachers, connect with them. You are partners in this work. They're not out. Now, there are some bad apples out there. I will own that.
All right.
All of them are bad. And then don't be upset if, in fact, you have a paraprofessional that's helping to deliver the instruction, because paras are still professional.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Stewart, hold on one second, Dr. Stewart. To our viewing audience,
yes,
we hope you are listening.
Yes.
Take these free nuggets. He just spoke about 504 plans. We are here to educate you. Please soak this up. Dr. Sharon, thank you.
Hit the like and share. Y'all need to be sharing this. Can you talk about, real quick, and both of you, the difference between an IEP, what is an IEP versus that of a 504 plan, and how do I now hold my district accountable if my child has one of those?
And learn it from home.
Mm-hmm. So a IEP buys you a person. Mm-hmm. And 504 can happen in the general ed classroom. Mm-hmm. So when we look at IEP is special ed services. Mm-hmm. That means that your child has a diagnosed disability that requires another person to support your child in the general ed classroom, or actually pull your baby out of the classroom. You receive an IEP document that is a binding document between the school district, your state, the federal government, and the parent to deliver services as agreed upon as a committee. You meet once a year to go over that plan. That plan should be driven by data and not feelings. Yes. However, I want to arm teachers with this. Parents will always be parents. They are allowed to feel anything they want. Yes. It is your job as the practitioner to bring facts to the table and say, hey, you can agree Sean might need a 101 because he's truly ADHD. However, data reflects that Sean does fine in class. He just needs to do that and prove that. When we look at a 504 plan, 504 plan offers accommodations, and those accommodations can be delivered through the general ed setting. On the special ed side, those accommodations are required. That is not a request. That is not a compensation. We don't feel like a kid should do them. Those things are required, and if they don't happen, that's when you go to your school leader or your principal and say, hey, Ms. Johnson didn't do that for Sean. And then you go show her this test with this F on it that says, show me where his accommodations happen.
Yes.
Right. And if we don't, and the parents, when they call us on it, it is our responsibility to bring the facts to the table and say, this is how it happened. Now, when we look at this online program that's happening, especially in the Google Classroom, be okay with that. It might take a moment for it all to get in place, but once it gets in place, you should start seeing a rhythm, the frequency and duration. You should start seeing 30 minutes, 4 days a week. Right. And you should start seeing that happen more often. That's when you know it's in place. So it might take a minute, but if it just give it a minute. And if it doesn't, reach out, check in with someone. Remember, you all are doing this together. Your teachers, your parents, we are partnerships. We do it together.
Right. Yes. Right.
Dr. Lewis, anything you want to add to that as well?
So I would say that, Dr. Stewart, he definitely did a great job, with, synthesizing, what, special education services are. And the one thing about special education services is not specific to a state, it's across, the nation. And that even though we are, in a climate where students are receiving virtual instruction, parents should still know that students are inherently due the services that are outlined in their IEP. And so if a student is to receive counseling services, occupational therapy, speech, those services are still available for students in this virtual climate that we are delivering our services to students.
And Dr. Thomas, I want to stamp this for us also. If you are requesting your child to have initial evaluation, just understand initial evaluations come with some other requirements that are beyond the scope of the district. That there might not be a way to do tele-evaluations because some of that stuff has to be done face-to-face and in person by the LSSP or the licensed school support psychologist, or depending on the disability, or the diagnostician, depending on what we're screening for. So just know that if you ask for that, parts of the evaluation can be completed, and then some school districts, depending on your state, might say, you know what, We can't do that. We'll document it, we'll collect data, but just right now, until we get back in the building, we can't do that right now, and that's okay. Just be sure you keep up with your emails and the conversation that's happening, so that when we do finally get back to school, we can actually start the clock on getting those things done.
I love it. This is such valuable information. Listen, if you are just now joining us, we have Dr. Stewart and we have Dr. Lewis. They are telling us how we can engage and partner with our educational system, because we are going through so much right now. We don't want our children to suffer. Their education does not have to lag, and you don't have to be overwhelmed by thinking that you have to be this amazing teacher when you are a parent, and how we partner. Thank you both for sharing this information and everything like that. Thomas, I know you got some more questions there.
I'm just sitting here like, we've already talked about joy. We talked about love. We talked about partnership. We talked about teaming. And I just wonder, we have our students. Some of our students are working from home and doing schooling at home. My heart goes out to our rising seniors, right? They are completing their last year of high school at home. And so is there any advice that anyone can share to our parents who have rising seniors? How can they still make sure that their child receive the necessary work so they can get some scholarships, so they can get some money? How can we empower our rising seniors and our parents to keep moving forward during these times?
And so that they're meeting all the necessary credits that they need to graduate in that as well. Dr. Lewis.
Yes, I would say I'm probably going to answer this question, one, as an educator and as a parent, because I actually have a rising senior.
Okay. Come on.
And when I tell you, as when the class of 20 graduated, and I was just like, oh my God, I felt like our young people, were robbed of, all of the highlights of being a senior, prom and senior awards and graduation in the traditional form. But, as we are, approaching this 2021 school year, it's probably going to be, the same situation. So I would say, one, as a parent, with, having that comforting conversation, with your child, that, we also may have the same experiences as class of 2020. But I will also say that, for the parent, do as much as possible, to support, your child in understanding that, we are in a global pandemic, and so that, things may not be what they have traditionally been. So that's the conversation my daughter and I have been having. However, as we are moving into this senior year, her school is actually going to be 2 days in person, and then 3 days, at home, virtual. And so the virtual platform is, of course, like asynchronous, where it's sort of self-paced. They can get on in the Google Classroom. But I'm also been given assignments myself, and it has been around participating in the virtual college tours, because all of the colleges now are allowing you to tour online. We actually have been writing our essays, doing scholarship, looking at scholarship applications. And so that is also assignments that we've actually put in place, while you are home. Because you're not just going to sit home and then watch television and be on, this is also an opportunity, to actually, go and look out, for the money that is there. And so just really pushing and encouraging our parents, to take advantage, of, I would say that right now society and these organizations are quite benevolent. And so you have a number of community service organizations, that are still giving out scholarships, that are still raising money. And so please take full advantage of it. And I would say, also for, students who, because part of, graduating requires community service. And so I would say still find community service that could be virtual, because it also helps to build self-esteem, to build those social emotional skills that we want young people to go to college with. We want them to be about service. We want them to still tap into that leadership, that is necessary to be a productive citizen in society.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So I would add a couple of things. One, be sure the school is a building. Instruction is people. And I'm saying that because when we start talking about GPA, class rank, where you sit, transcripts, all of that stuff is still school. Instruction. Those things deal with people. So I don't want us to get comfortable thinking that because we're at home and we are doing online instruction that grades don't count. It takes grades plus attendance to equal credit.
Hello.
Grades plus attendance equal credit. So if you have a rising senior, and you don't want them to continue to be a rising senior, and you would like to see that rising senior complete that process, it takes grades plus attendance equal credit. Grades and attendance is captured through when your child signs into the classroom online. Be sure you are doing that. Now, if the asynchronous versus the synchronous, I can give you grace on that. The name of the game is that they have an artifact to prove that some level of instruction happened and that the grade they gave did not come from Casper.
All right. Come on.
So
come on, Casper.
I think that we also should give a little nugget here. Also, those the essays that they have to write. Food for thought, Google Docs gang. Put the madness in Google Doc and change the name of the document so then you have a chance to keep your narrative in place. And then just save it. Go ahead and download it as a Word document. Go ahead and start writing it in Google Docs. Share it with people who can help you make edits versus Word document back and forth. Make it a Google Doc. Go ahead and share it. Your counselors, especially your high school counselors, your career counselors, their paycheck is contingent upon them actually getting you college ready. Oh my God, go figure that.
College ready.
Oh my God.
And we won't even talk about that. That's a whole nother show.
We ain't gonna touch that, Marty. Not tonight.
You don't have to. That's why I'm here. So because we're not in a building does not mean you don't have access to them. And not being in a building does not generate an excuse for you to do the work.
Right.
Okay. That step right there, parents and students, the school is in place, the staff is in place, even though the building is empty, it is your responsibility to connect with them and ensure that transcript reads right, that those grades read right. Now, this is something we got to talk about. Some of our African American Hispanic kids use athletics to get out of the poverty bind that they're in, and because they're not playing their senior year, it gets great. If the academics are not in place, the athletics didn't really help in the first place. So I just would like to encourage you, now that we have athletics kind of sitting to the side, be sure you increase your strength in your academic so that you are a beast academic as you will athletically.
I love it. I love it. I want to pull on you a little bit, Thomas, as a having worked in the schools and being a counselor. What advice do you, as a LPC and being in the school environment and that type of thing, and please share your official title if we could, please, because we need to know that you're a big wig in this. You're a big dog in this.
As someone once shared with me, I am only Thomas. That's all. Again, I am Thomas Davis. I am a licensed professional counselor. And just basically what it is, we are just trained, credentialed, licensed people who provide services and give families, individuals hope. Just basically how I see this as a therapist, as a counselor. If I'm not excited about giving you hope, I'm not helping you.
Right.
So imagine you as a teacher, as a leader, as a principal, as people in power. If you're not excited about what you're doing, how are you going to empower someone else?
Sure.
So as a therapist, I'm just Thomas. Limitless possibilities is what I believe in. Providing individuals with the mindset that anything is possible. It don't matter what your mama, what your daddy, what your cousin, what your boyfriend, what your lover did. If you make up in your mind, when I wake up in the morning, I'm no longer going to do this, I, as your therapist, should believe that.
Yep.
Talk to us also about the anxiety that a lot of our students and the anxiety that a lot of our parents are experiencing, and what support systems do they have to help them to reduce the anxiety so that they can definitely go along with their lives in this new normal that we're experiencing.
Shout out to Dr. Sean and shout out to Dr. Lewis, because you guys are the forefront. You guys are the leaders who are taking the phone calls from my parents every day. I don't want my child in school. I cannot send my child to school because I don't want my child to catch COVID. I think we as Americans, self-included, we all are experiencing some form of anxiety, right? As we navigate to go back into the building, whenever we go back in the building, whether it's now, next month, 2021, we are all embarking on the same emotions. So if we are nervous about going back into a building, imagine how our parents feel. I think sometimes we got to take ourselves out of situations and look at it from a lens from someone else outside of us. So to answer your question, Marty, I just feel like that we just got to listen. I think what Dr. Stewart said earlier was perfect. We have to listen. A parent has every right to have a voice. And they may share with us, I don't know what to do, Mr. Davis. I don't know enough about a Google Classroom. Guess what? It may have to be on a Saturday morning from 10 to 11 o'clock. I am on a Zoom call with you having up your laptop and we working together to show you how you can access Google Classroom. So I just think that we got to have patience. We have to be understanding. We have to be engaging.
Right.
And we have to, most of all, listen.
Yes. Yes. What's your role in your school that you're at now?
My role?
Yes, your role. Because you said, when my parents called me, so you slid that in without telling your position and how you are involved in the educational system in DC right now.
Right now, I serve as a dean of students for the special education department.
Yes, yes, exactly. And that's so important because being the dean of students in that, because it's in special ed, so you got Dr. Stewart over there about going crazy and all that. Yes.
We already gonna have a conversation. So we do finish it.
You do understand.
We here.
Because this is so important, because we're navigating through so much. How do we get the counselors? How do we get the teachers? How do we get all the parents, all of us on the team together? And I'm going to throw that out there to all three of you now. Now you're a part of the guest panel, and I'm the moderator. Come on, somebody,
I want to push back on something, Marty. Because
push back on it.
I want to push back on one thing. When we start evaluating needs and services, and we start talking about how teachers support, I'm going to play both sides of the court on this. When we say that teachers have office hours, we need parents to respect that. And when parents tell teachers, I'm at work and I can't make this, I need you to have alternatives.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, let me tell you what alternatives look like. If you have one phone number and you don't want parents having access to that number, Google gives numbers for free.
Free. Come on.
Yes, you should get a good. And I'm saying that because when he's talking about on Saturday, I might not. If my phone is the hotspot, I might have to work around, and you're gonna have to do some workarounds. And so we need to be in a place where, when we start talking about social and emotional intelligence, we also got to look at the parents that sometimes we have to invade them and infect them with positivity that, look, I know it's bad, I got you.
Right.
And we also have to say to them that, look, yes, this is a mess. No, we don't know what we're doing. And no, I don't know how I'm going to fix it. However, by the time we meet Saturday at 10, I'm going to have an answer. It might not be the best answer, but I am going to have an answer.
Right.
And our answer is going to be what we work through until we get to better. And
because that's the starting point, at least.
Yes. Because a lot of times my teachers are parents, their wives, their husbands. I've got teachers on my campus who have husbands and wives in the military, and they are single parent homes of 4 kids.
Yes.
And so you 4 kids plus your in-laws, a dog and a cat. By the time you get up in a day and get started, you're exhausted before you get to your 10 o'clock Zoom.
Right.
And so as we're looking at that, I want to point to also schools have social workers and they have counselors. Now most school districts are now engaging with connecting with outside supportive services. So don't be scared to ask for help. And my pastors, let me tell you this. The pews are going to have post-traumatic stress syndrome. You are not qualified to diagnose PTSS or PTSD. And so I need the Black community to own that therapy is a part of the work that has to happen. We're going to have to engage that we are going to need some help. And the help is going to need to be in addition to the prayer and the fasting and the talking to your friend. You're going to need someone that you can go say that life is hell and you hate everybody, and then they're going to tell you how to keep going. And when you leave, you're going to be all right. And
there you go.
You say that to that person, and I like what he said. He doesn't have license. He has license and certifications that go together. So then if he breaks the law, his ethics become at hand. If he breaks the law, what you going to do? Take his ordination?
Right. Come on.
When he can go online for $50 and become an ordained bishop, which is completely out of the text, but we won't get on that. However, I will say that when we engage this, that counseling needs not to be something that is foreign to the African American and Hispanic culture. And counselors are not tattletales. Counselors are the tail. They close the loop. Be sure you engage the counselor and the social worker without regard.
Thank you, Dr. Stewart. And you know, it's you said what I was going to say. Thank you. Hallelujah.
Yes,
but one thing that Dr. Lewis and I talk about all the time, we have to know each other's roles and how we have to respect each other. Friendships are friends. I have great friends. Dr. Lewis and I are not just frat brothers, educators, we're friends. Even in those 3 life differences, there are certain things that we can do for one another that we cannot do for each other. You know what I'm saying? So if Dr. Lewis is having a moment and he feels that he can talk to me as his friend, licensure 101, it is unethical to counsel your friends with your license.
That's it.
So I know if he's having that time as his friend, I could be there to listen, but I cannot give him guidance. Dr. Lewis is an educator. He is a principal. He is a director. I'm a dean. There are certain things that I can do that he can share with me. So we got to understand each other's roles. So thank you, Dr. Stewart, for sharing that, because sometimes we want our friends to be our doctors, our lawyers, our attorneys, our therapists, and we miss the mark. And we bringing it back into COVID. We don't go to the right people to get what we need done, to get our kids, our parents educated, ourselves educated. Because as teachers and as adults, we have rights too, right? We have to know how to use our resources. So thank you for opening up that. I would just share, to answer the question, Dr. Marty, is that I just want us to be able to open and talk to each other with the appropriate person.
That's right.
Not what we comfortable with, because sometimes we got to shake the table a little bit. And we got to get outside of our comfort zone and go into a new lane. Because if you stay doing what you used to, you're never going to see that bigger picture because you're stuck right there. So know your role, reach out, and do what you got to do. Dr. Lewis?
Yeah, I definitely want to build off of, what you said, which was so eloquent. I would say we all know that COVID actually really pushed education to have to pivot quickly. We are the one industry that has probably not delivered, has not changed the way that we delivered our service over 100 years. So like now that, when we think about we can have, teachers working from home, we can actually have children engage in blended learning. And so I would say that this is also like the perfect time for schools to realize that we have to be nimble and we have to reimagine how we actually use our greatest resource in the school, which is our human resources.
Yes.
And so schools have always like historically been the hub of the community.
Yes.
So I think that this is really drawing us back to imagining the school as providing those services to the community. And so when we think about, how we are utilizing the individuals who are in the building, we can be, creative. We can engage in those partnerships, with other nonprofits who can support our families who are experiencing anxiety, who are experiencing homelessness, because it's going to happen. Yes. We can partner with food banks, because a lot of our families do rely on the schools to provide breakfast and lunch, when they actually have multiple, children to feed. And so I really, really want the school districts to really start operating around the whole system, like to think about it like systems thinking. Like, we don't operate as a silo. That now it's time for us to tap into those other agencies that provide support to our families. And when we think about the people who are in our building, when Thomas, you said, like, people knowing their role, knowing their lane, that it's also a steep learning curve for a lot of teachers to adjust to teaching online. We know that we have individuals who are great with technology. So that could be, the teacher who's behind the scenes, who's managing the Google Classroom, who has the office hours for parents to call in and for them to give guidance. And then you can put, your best and your brightest, teachers, in front of students to deliver that instruction. You may have those teachers who actually can work, in small groups, and be on a Zoom with 4 to 5 students to do guided reading. When we think about, and this is something that I think we often, don't think about, but for our early learners, children in kindergarten, the physical space is also learning for it. They learn through their senses. They need manipulation. And so you could have, someone who is dedicated, to supporting parents, and here's how you can, create a space at home, for your child. Here are the open-ended questions you can ask. Here's when you can have story time. Recess is important, allowing them to go off outside and burn, that energy, and to learn through play, and to share, and to socialize. And those soft skills are so important. And I just also see some of the people who sit in central office also coming down and being that point person, parents, to tap into their knowledge.
That is absolutely amazing.
Marty, if I must say this, Marty, I'm blown away. Like,
I am too.
Y'all, I'm blown away. I am blown away. You both are dropping some nuggets, and these comments are showing up. You all are helping everyone. You're helping myself. Even as a therapist, you're helping me. I'm just speechless, Marty. I'm sorry. I just had to throw that in.
This is amazing. And this is what this show is all about. This is what it's all about. Empowering our parents, empowering and talking through this. Because if we don't have these conversations, we can't get better at it. Again, I love it. We're all in this together. And the goal is to help get our children from where they are to where they need to be, as well as our parents with that. Listen, as we wrap up, I can't believe it's been an hour already. This has gone by so fast. Dr. Lewis, how can our viewers today get a hold of you?
Yes, so I have a number of ways I can be reached. So I'm on LinkedIn, and my name, Jabriah Lewis, EDD. Also on Facebook at Jabriah Lewis. And at Instagram at Ice Cold, COLEREACTION, Ice Cold Reaction.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. And then your Twitter.
And Twitter at Jabriah Lewis.
Yes.
All right.
Listen, Dr. Lewis, thank you so much for all your valuable information. We're going to be having you back and all that, because this is not a one shot. I see this show going at least to the end of the year while we're going through this. We want to be there to support our families all across this nation who need help navigating through this. Dr. Sean Stewart, how can we get a hold of you?
I am Sean Stewart, SHON Stewart, STEWART on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. You can find me there. If you can find me on the church's website, www.fchouston.org, and there's a place to contact us, and it drops right down to me, and it gets right to me directly, and I respond very quickly. Now I'm slow with that Instagram, that messenger thing. It's not my department. I'm the person that has the IEP in technology, so that's not me. So, however, if you need me, reach out to me. I am an awesome emailer.
Wonderful.
On the website, there's a number that actually gets you directly to me. If you need me, I'm happy to support you there. I would like to lead us with this,
yes.
Marty. We have to fight with knowledge.
Yes.
Parents got to create an atmosphere where your children can come tell you their truth without penalty. If you look over my shoulder, there's this old green chair back there. In my office, when I'm at school, that's the cursing chair. A kid can come sit in that chair for 5 minutes and cuss to high heaven and tell me everything that's on their heart without a penalty, because then I find out about the abuse, that the lights are off, that mama's in jail. I find out all the issues. Parents, create a place where your children can come tell you their truth without penalty, so then you know what you're up against. Don't be in a financial depression and miss your child's depression at the same time.
That is good. Thank you. Thank you both so much. Thomas, how can we get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me on Instagram, which is Limitless Possibilities for You. You can reach me on Facebook, which is Thomas L. Davis, LPC. Or you can follow me on Instagram or catch me on my website, www.limitlesspossibilitiesforyou.com.
Excellent. And your YouTube as well. Yes. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, I can't thank you all enough for joining us on our inaugural first episode of this COVID schooling. This is, you know, we'll always have you back. Dr. Lewis, welcome to the family. We are so glad. Listen, if this was good to you, please like and share all of this information. We are so glad that you joined us today. You could have chosen any other Facebook Live show to look at, but we felt it very imperative that you check out ours to give you information. Again, my name is Martina Sellers. I can be reached at Mental Health Matters with Marty. I would love for you to join our podcast that comes out on every podcast information. Again, at www.mentalhealthmarty.com. And with Mental Health Matters with Marty on podcast on Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, and iRadio. Listen, we don't want you, and please subscribe to that. Leave us a 5-star rating, and you can always text I Matter to 31996 for open for next things that come up for us. And again, please, we don't want you to suffer in silence, but we want you to speak up, speak out, and live. Thank you so much for joining us. And please join us. Mark your calendars, mark your time for next Tuesday, same time, same bat channel, same Mental Health Matters with Marty, as we continue the discussion on COVID schooling. Until next week, God bless and keep you.